Chris Olave. 147 targets, 83 receptions, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 56% catch rate.
The guys like Chris Olave people never get as excited as they should about these like just professional receivers who just get open at all 3 levels. He fits into the guys that I think are always underrated, especially when they're not paired with great quarterback play.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
All right, let's talk about some of these guys going into year number 2. And obviously, these 2 guys, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Matt, they generated a lot of buzz. And I just feel like we just keep getting spoiled by these boys, man. Like these young guys, they just come in and just absolutely just drop it all over the field, man. And Garrett Wilson, I thought Chris Olave played really, really great football. But let's start with Chris Olave. 147 targets, 83 receptions, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 56% catch rate. But actually, to be honest with you, 1,100 yards playing with literally the worst quarterback situation in the NFL, that's pretty good.
Yeah, there's a small segment, maybe a larger segment of people that I'm giving it credit for. That was when they get Derek Carr to the New Orleans Saints, be like, what are they getting Derek Carr for? Like Andy Dalton was good in this passing metric last year. It's like, okay, maybe he was good maybe he was good in those metrics last year because he was throwing to a guy who is always wide open in Chris Olave. Like, I wonder why, though he looks good in those metrics, because Chris Olave is always open. The dude was the best route runner among the guys sampled for his draft class. Number 1 in success rate versus man and press coverage coming into the league in the 2022 NFL draft. And I think the most impressive thing about Chris Olave's, success rates, right? 83rd percentile, 75.8% success rate versus man coverage, 77.5% success rate versus press, and 81% over success rate against zone coverage. Dude was just open at all levels. He went over the success rate on all but one route. I mean, oh my God, that's incredible stuff. And then you look at his route percentage chart, James, 7.5% slant routes, 3% screens, 5.2% flats. Like, this is a dude who's running like all big boy vertical, deep, and intermediate routes, and he's still getting open at that rate. That's crazy impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about 20% of his routes on the 9 that you charted, another 11% on the post. So now we're talking, over 30% of his routes are on the 9 and post. Then you add another 13% on the dig, right? Another 20% on the curl route. I mean, even the curl route, I've talked about this many times, but a curl route, very dangerous throw in the NFL. You have to be very good at that route. Otherwise, that ball's getting picked off big time. 20% of his routes on the curl and an 83% success rate on that curl route. That, my friends, that is so impressive. And I felt like he didn't get the credit that he deserved in terms of offensive rookie of the year, or even just like the highlights and everything. Well, maybe it's because he didn't have the highlights. He didn't have that oh my God catch, the oh my God catches that George Pickens had, right? He didn't have like the oh my God moments that Garrett Wilson had. But man, you talk about a professional wide receiver that can just do it all. That was Chris Olave.
The guys like Chris Olave people never get as excited as they should about these like just professional receivers who just get open at all 3 levels and don't make crazy contested catches. Now, I think that Olave checks in at 70% contested catch rate last year. And he was good in college at winning 50-50 balls. But that's not an absurd number. That's not like an absurd trump card trait of his. He was brought down on first contact on 82.4% of his in-space attempts, as a rookie. He's not a yak guy either, but who cares if he's not picking up extra yardage when he's consistently catching the ball 13, 14 yards down the field? Like, give me the guy that's going to get open on dig routes and out routes and intermediate routes consistently over a guy who's going to have to run Mickey Mouse routes and break 2 tackles just to get 14 yards. He fits into the guys that I think are always underrated, especially when they're not paired with great quarterback play. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Stephon Diggs. It reminds me a lot of Tyler Lockett, Terry McLaurin. Like, that's the axis of wide receivers I see for Chris Olave. And I still think he's a little underrated. right now, just because his rookie season was so fantastic. And I think he's ready to be a legit big boy number one receiver. And we just talked about Derek Carr with Devontae Adams in the last segment.
Right.
82.9% success rate on digs, 78.1% success rate on outs for Chris Olave. Like those are the routes that Devontae Adams and Derek Carr were making magic last year. I think that'll be the same relationship he has here with Chris Olave.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit? What kind of relationship do you think he's going to have with his new quarterback there? How do their skill sets kind of sort of match up?
Yeah, I think he matches up well from that intermediate and deep perspective. Like we've seen with Derek Carr the last few years that he's gotten more and more willing when the pass protection is good to sit there and rip it down the field.
You know, I was looking up trying to find some player comparisons here for Chris Olave, and one guy that kind of sort of stuck out to me was AJ Green. Had very similar numbers to a 2016 version of AJ Green in terms of success rate versus man coverage, success rate versus zone coverage, and then you look at his success rates on some of those deeper routes too. AJ Green and Chris Olave, as a rookie, by the way, had very, very similar numbers. Is that a player comp in terms of let's talk about, I don't even want to say ceilings or whatever it is, but is that something that, maybe fans can kind of sort of latch onto, a Chris Olave, AJ Green type of receiver?
Well, I think that the immediate pushback you're going to get to that is the size and speed or the size, right? Because AJ Green was this massive X receiver. Chris Olave is kind of a skinnier guy, right? He's
For sure.
Sub 190 pounds. He's a smaller guy in that respect, but I totally get what you're saying, and I totally get why this is impressive, because this is going to show the role that Chris Olave played as a rookie. He was a big boy number one receiver. You look at his alignment data in the game sampled for reception perception, 67.1% outside. He was more like an off the ball flanker receiver. And again, that's sort of Diggs-ish, that's sort of Tyler Lockett-ish, which is why I kind of made those comps. But yeah, just he was running those vertical route trees just like AJ Green. I like that comparison from that standpoint. And just another, I mentioned the 75.8% success rate versus man. It's right the same with AJ Green. If you get over 75%, you're more than likely going to be very, very good at football.